Which historical figure sounds made up? Wojtek, a bear that served in the Polish army during WW2. He was picked up by Polish soldiers in Iran when he was a cub, and later he was branded as an official soldier and given the rank of private. Apparently he was really friendly and social. He loved playing with the soldiers and fake fighting. He would eat cigarettes that they gave him. They would bring him to cinemas. And he would even get drunk with a monsieur. During the Battle of Monte Cassino, he saw the soldiers carrying boxes of ammo and started mimicking them, and he brought a lot more than any human. After the war, he was transported to a zoo, where he lived out the rest of his life. The soldiers still constantly visited him, and they would jump in his cage to play and fight with him, like in the good old days, which always shocked any other visitors. A monument was built in his memory in Krakow. This story sounds like some complete BS made up by the Polish army to boost morale, but it's all documented and very much true. He also discovered and mauled a Nazi spy, Jimmy Fallon, and the only thing most people seem to remember about him is that he was short. And he wasn't even all that short. Blackbeard. The man lit his face on fire to seem more scary. He was also noted as a gentleman, and several Navy officers were quoted as saying, paraphrasing, "If he'd have been on our side, he'd be one of the most celebrated naval leaders of the era." His entire game was intimidation. He won battles and seized ships by maintaining a ruthless reputation. Even though he was documented as being educated, well-mannered, and soft-spoken, in a world without gold, he could have been a hero. Actually, pirate hordes historically, at least in North America, were mostly sugar, alcohol, tobacco, and medicine. All those things were very valuable and more abundant than gold. Tobacco and sugar were the major exports of colonial North America and the Caribbean after all. Also, the precious metal being made into coin in the Caribbean was silver, not gold. Imagine learning about Vlad the Impaler for the first time. A guy who killed dozens if not hundreds of members of his own family to consolidate power. Would impale people as first on huge wooden spikes which took hours if not days to kill. Was the inspiration for Dracula. His family name meant dragon, and he dipped his bread in the blood of his enemies while their corpses decorated his table. Shit sounds wild. Shit sounds like despite everything 2020 has thrown our way, we're still doing better than Wild Thing over there. Teddy Roosevelt. Once a gang stole the only boat in town during a blizzard. He built a boat, traveled down river to catch them. Monsieur caught them, refused to use handcuffs because the frostbite could kill them, and instead stayed up straight for days to bring them all to justice alive. And that's only the beginning. Ma Jack Churchill. He carried a Scottish broadsword into battle and bagpipes. Also has the latest confirmed kill with a longbow. Greater than, if it hadn't been for those damned Yanks we could have kept the war going for another 10 years. His comment about World War II. This guy sure was mad. The say what you want about the bagpipes. I've always felt there was a good reason that Germans were scared shitless in World War I when the bagpipers went over the trenches without any weapons and just started playing in no man's land. I feel like their woad-wearing, magic mushroom-eating Pictish berserker ancestors would be proud. Chiang Kai-shek. She was a member of the Chinese Communist Party who complained that democracy and freedom of speech were fundamental rights in communist Monsieur. In response, she was sent to an all-male prison. Male prisoners were told if they raped and tortured her they would get their sentence reduced. Despite being beaten and raped multiple times a day, she continued to campaign against the party and wrote notes on the crimes of the party on toilet paper until the guards removed her pen. She died from execution 6 years after entering the prison. After her death she was considered a hero in China. However, the reasons why she was sent to prison and what happened to her in prison were not mentioned. Instead, her life story was rewritten to say she fought for the party and not against the Monsieur. Genghis Khan was responsible for the largest continuous empire and also responsible for 40 million deaths. About 1 in 200 people alive were his descendants. But he was tolerant of other religions and created quite a good postal system, monsieur. Even his origin story seems made up. He was just some random tribal chief named Temujin until a rival tribe attacked and took his wife. As spoils of war, she was given to one of the conquering tribesmen as wife. Temujin cobbled together a ragtag army to get her back, and it gave him his start as a military conqueror. The non-storybook part is that when he got his wife back 8 months later, it turned out that she was rather pregnant, which is why the most prolific breeder in human history might not be the biological father of his oldest son. The son's name means guest, if that gives you any indication of how Genghis Khan felt about his paternity. Joshua Norton I, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico. He was just a crazy homeless dude in San Francisco who used to walk around in full uniform and ordered people around. Eventually the whole city started humoring him, saluting when he passed, and local businesses began accepting currency he created. He gained such notoriety that his decrees actually gained some traction with the community. When he died, over 10,000 people lined the streets for his processional. James Tiger Whitehead. His tombstone famously reads, born 1815, killed 99 bears, died September 25, 1905. We hope he is at rest. Was that tombstone made by the bears? No, it was made from the bears. Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. His surname Rasputin means debauched one. In Rasputin, it wasn't his real surname but his reputation for licentiousness earned him the surname Rasputin. Rasputin means Rasputin in Rasputin. King Leopold II of Belgium, monsieur, overall a scumbag who only cared about personal wealth. One or the first to successfully utilize and manipulate the media to frame him positively, even though he was a horrible person. As the owner of Congo during the late 1800s, his methods cost roughly 10 million Africans their life. I think it was either one of his daughters or someone who worked closely with him that once said that the only thing he cared about more than his wealth was making sure none of his daughters would get any of it after his death. Edit. Misspelling. H. Holmes. How about Frank Bayer? He was assigned to investigate insurance fraud and instead needed up tracking a serial killer. Ah yes, Triple H. Marie Antoinette. She had a fake peasant villainess created for her at Versailles so she could run around and pretend to be a peasant for fun. She also dyed the wool of the sheep in the village to make it more exotic. Not to mention she once had her hair designed to look like a ship. When she and her family tried to escape the French revolutionaries, she insisted that they all go at the same time, that everyone ride together, that they take as much of their stuff with them as possible, and that they stop for snacks multiple times. It's no wonder they were caught before they got out. The night before Marie Antoinette's death saw the last vestiges of her royal dignity stripped away. In the previous months, the former Queen of France lost her husband to the guillotine, was forcibly separated from her children, had seen her best friend, Princess de Lamballe, mutilated, and her naked, headless body dragged through the streets of Paris and her head impaled on a spear by the revolutionaries. These were but a fraction of the horrors the Queen personally endured. When she was separated from her children, she was locked away in a cold cell without any privacy whatsoever and constantly surrounded by a flock of guards who watched her every move, even at the most private of moments. On the night of the 15th of October, she was summoned to a rigged court where she was already ordained to die. Since the guillotines have already been erected, during the procedures, a panel of revolutionary judges accused her of a variety of treason, conspiracy and collusion with domestic and foreign enemies. All of this she endured for hours. But what broke the proud woman was when the judges insinuated that she had committed incest by sleeping with her 8-year-old son. based on a popular rumor frequently mocked and repeated in Paris. This more than anything broke her, and after struggling with her emotions, made her respond with the famous response, "I appeal to all mothers. Tilda U. Spice Princess N. IIRC." She was also made to hear the guards beat the boy into believing those accusations in the revolutionary cause. Shakespeare and Cervantes have so much legend around them. It's difficult to know what to believe sometimes. They're regular articles. Well, regular. As far as literary news is concerned, that's every few years. That either one or both were actually different people, or a collection of people, or that their wives, in Shakespeare's case, were either very influential or the actual author. It's puzzling. They are also said to have both died on the same day. Yet that also is disputed. Edit asterisk. Actually, now I think about it, the same goes for ancient Greece's Homer. He's sometimes thought to have been a group of authors that were later rolled into one person by popular culture, or that he was simply collating a Greek folklore that was already there. The passage of time is often murky. Johnny Appleseed. Yes. Wait, what? He was real? What? Question mark, exclamation mark. Not only that, he planted all those apples for making hooch. Apples planted from seeds are mostly ass. And the apples in your grocery store all come from grafts, not seedlings. Wait, he's actually real? I thought he was like Paul Bunyan or Pocahontas or something. Pocahontas was real. However, the Disney movie storyline was completely made up. Leo Major. The Canadian Corporal Leo Major landed in Europe on D-Day and took part in every major operation of the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division during 1944-1945. He lost sight in his left eye in Normandy but still participated in the Schelde Offensive of 1944. During the Rhineland Offensive, Corporal Major was again wounded when his vehicle hit a mine. He escaped the hospital and stayed with a family in Nijmegen whilst recovering from his wounds. Afterwards, he rejoined his unit in the liberation of the northern parts of the Netherlands. Leo Major was a stubborn man and on more than one occasion got demoted. His bravery, however, meant that he was always reinstated to his former rank. One of his most legendary actions was the liberation of Zwolle. With his best friend Willie, he volunteered for an exploring mission behind enemy lines. They had to check out the German defense positions. The Canadian Infantry Division should wait for their information and bomb the Germans out of town. The next morning, just after midnight, Willie got killed. It made Leo mad with anger. He decided to attack the German guard post single-handedly. He shot his Stangen, threw grenades, killed some Germans and captured the first group of 10. He handed them over to the Canadian forces outside the city. He went back about 8 times. After more than 4 hours of fighting and capturing more groups of Germans, he finally met with the SS. He killed 4 in the shooting that followed. The Germans thought they were under attack by the Canadian Army and decided to flee the city. In the morning of the 14th of April, Zwolle was liberated by one man. So the story goes. He was one of only 3 Canadian soldiers to be awarded the Distinguished Conduct Medal. On the 14th of April 2005, exact 60 years after the liberation of the town, he became an honor citizen of the city of Zwolle. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.